Hare Krishna. I welcome everyone on today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Hare Krishna. I welcome everyone to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class, and I'm thankful for this opportunity. And I seek blessings from all the Vaishnavas so that I'm able to glorify the Lordships and for my own learning and purification. So let's start with Jai Radha Madhav. Jai Radha Madhava, Jayo Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jayo Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jayo Girivaradhari, Jayo Girivaradhari, Jayo Yashodanandana, Jayo Vrajajanaranjana, Jayo Yashodanandana, Jayo Vrajajanaranjana, Jayo Yamunatiravanachari, Jayo Kunja Bihari, Jayo Yashodanandana, Jayo Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava, Jayo Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Shri Radhe, Jaya Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Shri Radhe, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Nashtaprayeshva bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथामृतं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्री राधा कृष्ण पादां सहगणा ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पातरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं भङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं। मुक्तेर्महद्भिर्यै मा पुरो विभो निर्माय शेते यदमोषपूरुषम् भुङ्क्ते गुणाशोधशात्मकम् सौलङ्कशिष्टा भगवान् वचांसि मे। श्रीकृष्णा शरणं शरणागतं कथामृतं सततपिबतं भक्तिवेदान्तमार्गपन्तनं सर्वलोकऋषिदेव जन्म प्रसन्नं सर्वलोकऋषिदेव जन्म प्रसन्नम्। Hare Krishna. Today we'll be discussing chapter 8 of the third canto, and which is named as Manifestation of Brahma from Garbhuta Kashai Vishnu. Now, just to give a bit of a background there, in chapter 7, what had happened was that we know that Vidura was asking questions from Maitreya Muni. And the questions were about the soul. He was saying that the soul is, pure consciousness. Then why is it engaged in nascence? That why do the living entities' activities result in misfortune and misery? And at that point, Maitreya Muni actually speaks that it's due to the misconception of self-identity, because we think that, we identify with the body and not with our spiritual soul. But he says that misconception can be diminished gradually by the mercy of the personality of Godhead through the process of devotional service to him and in a mode of detachment. And Maitreya Muni also emphasizes on the importance of serving the feet of the spiritual master, because that enables one to develop transcendental ecstasy in the service of the God, the personality of Godhead. So again, we understand that Vidura asks other questions too, and that again is related to Brahma. That he says that how is the leader of the demigods, how was Brahma, how did he decide to establish the various manus, how did he come into being first of all? He also asks about the other descendants of those manus and how are the planets which are situated above the earth and underneath the earth, how did they all come into being? He asks about the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he asks all these questions, and he tells Maitreya Muni that, please, answer these questions, because I like to hear about the pastimes of Hari. And once, Maitreya Muni, once he answers these questions, Vidura says that those answers will actually grant me immunity from all material miseries. So we can understand here that Vidura's interest in knowing these answers to these questions shows his faithfulness and his submissiveness. And that's what is appreciated here by Maitreya Muni. And Maitreya Muni was himself very enthusiastic about describing topics related to the personality of Godhead. And so he is very enlivened to know, that Vidura, he is interested in asking all these questions and finding the answers to these questions. And so he starts speaking. And that's where, we are at that juncture. So that's where chapter 8 starts. And here in chapter 8, Maitreya Muni first, he thanks Vidura. He thanks Vidura. Why? Because he says that he's giving him an opportunity to speak about the personality of Godhead. Right? And he also praises Vidura because he says that Vidura, being from the Puru dynasty, which is full of great devotees, and those devotees were not interested in impersonal Brahman or the localized Paramatma, but they were directly attached to Bhagavan. So they have always, sort of served the Lord directly. So that's why even all these descendants of the Puru dynasty were worthy, and that's why they could render service to the Lord and his pure devotees. And the same way, he was Maitreya Muni was very happy to be in the glorious company of Vidura, because Vidura himself, being very knowledgeable and very spiritual, he always, he was always very interested, and we could see even in his questions and even in what we have heard from Mahabharata, when we have seen seen or watched Mahabharata or heard about Mahabharata, we know about Vidura and how he was and how his surrender to Krishna was. Right. So again, Maitreya Muni is he feels fortunate and he feels very happy in Vidura's association, because he understands that such association with good devotees can accelerate one's dormant propensities for devotional service. So now here, Maitreya Muni, he starts, to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam, because it was especially compiled to understand about, to give solutions for all sorts of problems of the human society. And one is very fortunate to have the opportunity to, to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's why one should understand that we are all under the spell of material energy, and we've got so many difficulties, and simply for a little bit of material happiness, we all engage in this continuous cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. And we don't understand that we need to actually take this life seriously. Like how Srila Prabhupada used to say that just give this life to Krishna. Just take this life seriously and give it to Krishna and be Krishna conscious. Yeah, so that's all that we need to do. Like how we have heard this, it's a very common story that we have heard, wherein a person who is in a forest, and he is faced by a tiger, and he's running away from the tiger, and he falls into a well. And when he's fallen into the well, he's actually hanging from a branch that was coming out of the wall of the well. And at the top there's a tiger waiting for him, and below there are snakes in the well. And at that point of time, he's just he's thinking, oh my goodness, like I'm faced by problems from both sides. But at that point of time, he understands that there is this bit of honey dripping up from like a honeycomb, which is right above him, and he's just trying to get a bit of a taste of that honey. And he doesn't mind being stuck in that kind of a precarious position. And so it's like that kind of a situation is us, wherein there are these rats which were actually chewing away at that branch which he was hanging on. So we can understand that that person, that man, is the spirit soul embedded in this material body. And the tiger is a fate which is chasing us. The snakes are the fearful death that is awaiting us. And that honey, those drops of honey, those bits of sense gratification in this material life that we get from family, friends, and relatives. And those rats are the the waxing and the waning of the sun, and it's a kala basically. Right. So we have to understand that this well, that our life or this material existence is like a blind well. That's why it's called samsara kupa. Right. So these beautiful words of Sanskrit, which we read when we come across different shlokas of Bhagavatam, are very significant. And once we dwell into that and get absorbed in these shlokas of Bhagavatam, it gives us a different perspective to life. So that's why when this material existence is called as a blind well or samsara kupa, we need to understand that that person, when that person is in the well, there's a person who calls out to him. There's a friend who calls out to him. And he tells him that, okay, you hold this rope, hold on to this rope. I'm throwing in a rope for you. And so you can take the help of that rope and come out. But the person is like, oh no, it's okay, like, you're throwing me the rope, but I need to just have taste the next drop of honey that's coming along. So in that way, that's how we are. And that friend over there who's throwing us the rope is our guru, who has actually come to save us. So we understand that we need to hold on to the rope that he's throwing at us, and rather than just being stuck, getting just satisfied by those small drops of sense gratificatory relationships as such, right? So now we understand that under this false impression of the body and the self, we foolishly relate to so many false attachments, right? And we are suffering continuously, life after life. So that's why the Bhagavatam is so important. Like either it's the Bhagavatam or the Bhagavata, that's a devotee. They are, we are fortunate. We'll be fortunate if we come across such a person, or we come across Bhagavatam in our lifetime. And so we are all, because of Srila Prabhupada, we have got this good fortune of reading Bhagavatam and hearing Bhagavatam. So we should take the utmost advantage of this situation that we are in, right? So now again, what happens is Maitreya Muni, when he's explaining to Vidura at this point, he says that a long time back, Sanat Kumara, who was the chief among the four Kumaras, he asks these similar questions to Lord Sankarshan. Now we understand Lord Sankarshan is the plenary expansion of the Supreme Lord Vasudev, who is seated at the bottom of the universe. So what happens is that we can understand here that it is not only Shukadev Goswami who is like speaking the Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, but rather this Bhagavatam has been spoken by Lord himself. Right? So now we can also understand that here Maitreya Muni says that the Ganges, which actually flows from the lotus feet of Vishnu, it runs from this planet, the lowest planet. So these sages who, the four Kumaras, basically they had actually come from Satyaloka by taking advantage of this facility that they could have, of the Ganges being the only celestial river which flows throughout the universe. So just by dipping into that river, they could actually travel thousands of miles. So that way they had come down from the Satyaloka to the very bottom of the universe where Lord Sankarshan was lying. Yeah, and then because of that, their hair was wet because it had touched the Ganges. And there Maitreya Muni says that because it had touched because Ganga itself is coming from, it's touching the feet of the Lord and then coming down. So that's why when the Ganges touches our hair, or we dip into the Ganges, then it is so auspicious. It's almost like it is like us touching the feet of the Lord. So, and because of that, we get free from all effects of sinful activities. So that's how important, or the significance of the Ganges has been mentioned here by Maitreya Muni. So we can understand that whenever we go to India and we visit the holy places and we have a dip in the holy rivers, especially the Ganges, we can understand the significance of the Ganges here. So it's not just merely just doing it as a just as a ritual, but rather we should have the faith and the attitude, the mood should be that this Ganges has actually touched the feet of the Lord. So it is we are so fortunate to actually being having a dip in the Ganges, or having the Ganges touch our physical self. Yeah, so that's why it is but again, we have to understand that just having a dip in the Ganges is not the thing, because if we are again going to continue those our sinful activities, then it doesn't make any difference. So it's just like the elephant's bath, which is like it has a bath and then comes out and then again rolls in the mud. So it is just like that. So we need to understand that it is here in every part or every shloka, we understand that it could be a direct or an indirect message to us by our acharyas. So again, Maitreya Muni passes on, he goes on to the next part, wherein he says that these four Kumaras who are, they come down through the Ganges and they come down and they ask Lord Sankarshan these questions. And because they know the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, they're glorifying the Lord. And they're glorifying Lord Sankarshan. And when he hears their glorification, Lord Sankarshan, with his thousands of raised hoods, he's radiating an effulgence from the glowing stones which are bedecked on his head. Right? Now again, there's another word here which comes in the purport, which Srila Prabhupada points out, is Uttama Shloka. which means one who is worshipped with selected words by devotees. And which devotees? They who are fully absorbed in affection and love for the devotional service of the Lord. So that's what we can understand, that this beautiful words, Uttama Shloka, where Krishna is called as Uttama Shloka, we have heard it in many different shlokas. Just for example, we have in the 10th canto, we have this famous shloka, Nivrittatarshe Rupagiyamanat Bhavo Sadha Shotramano Kauttama Shloka Gunanuvadat Puman Virajeta Vina Pashubnat. The translation for that is: the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is performed in the parampara system, that is, it is conveyed from spiritual master to disciple. Such glorification is relished by those no longer interested in false, temporary glorification of this cosmic manifestation. Descriptions of the Lord are the right medicine for the conditioned soul, repeated birth and death. Therefore, who will cease hearing such glorification of the Lord except a butcher or one who's killing his own self? So again, we understand here that it's such beautiful, like it's almost like if we have got this chance, we have this opportunity to hear about the descriptions of the Lord and to get absorbed in that, in the study of Bhagavatam. We should take this this opportunity to do so, because otherwise we would be, it's like who would not take this opportunity to do so? That's what here it's mentioned. Yeah. So now again, we understand that how the questions that were asked by the Sanat Kumaras to Lord Sankarshan, in the same way, Lord Sankarshan actually gives back the answers to them. So that's why the to the Sanat Kumaras by Lord Sankarshan. And then again, when the Sanat Kumaras were inquired by Sankhyaina Muni, then again they have spoken the Bhagavatam to Sankhyaina Muni. Right? So it's a matter of hearing from the right source. So again, when people would say that, Bhagavatam is just, they don't believe that we have to actually follow these scriptures, because, it is the, Bhagavad Purana is the, it's the ultimate supreme knowledge, basically. So some people would justify it. But actually, it has come right from the Supreme Lord. He has spoken it first, and then it has passed on to different munis and rishis, and it has come down to us. Right. So now again, it's the emphasis here is again out of the 9 items of devotion. So namely, this hearing and chanting are the most important, and they've been given most importance. If without hearing nicely, one cannot preach the message of the Vedic knowledge. So there has been a lot of emphasis given on hearing nicely, and that's why when these we can see how Sankhyaina Muni or the Sanat Kumaras, or in this case Vidura, they're listening attentively, submissively. So their mood is of utmost importance. It's not that they have any kind of arrogance there, or because they themselves know that, we are very, highly elevated or very, very intelligent. They don't have that kind of pride in them. So we have to understand that we are hearing from the right source and in the right mood is very important. So in the same way, now next what happens is that the Sankhyaina Muni, he's a great sage. Now when he was, he comes to know through the Sanat Kumaras, the Bhagavatam, the knowledge of Bhagavatam, then he in turn speaks out that knowledge to Parashar Muni. Now Parashar Muni and Brihaspati, he speaks to both of them. Now again, Parashar Muni is the spiritual master of Maitreya Muni. Right, and Parashar is, we know he's the father of Vyasadeva. Right. So now here what happens is Parashar Muni, again there is a pastime that has been linked there. Now what happens is Parashar Muni is very at a particular point of his life, he is very sort of agitated in a way, because his father was killed by a demon. Okay. Now there's a sage called as Pulastya. Now Pulastya is the father of all demoniac descendants. Okay. So now what happens is, because Parashar Muni's father was killed and devoured by one of the demons, what Parashar Muni thinks is that he decides to actually have a sacrifice, and he decides that in that sacrifice he is going to like he planned it in such a way that in that sacrifice all the demons were to be burned to death. So that was what his plan was, because he was, kind of in this revengeful mood. And but at that point of time, what happens is Vashishta Muni comes there. He arrives at the sacrifice, and he requests Parashar Muni to stop this kind of a deadly action. And because Vashishta Muni's position and respect in the community of sages was such, because he was he was highly revered, and therefore Parashar Muni could not deny the request. And then again, Parashar Muni, he stops the sacrifice, and Pulastya, who's I said, the father of all the demons, he appreciates his Parashar Muni's Brahmanical temperament, and he gives his blessings that in the future he would be a great speaker on the Vedic literature called the Puranas, because we understand that here Parashar Muni, like he understood that he why should he give up, because the demons did what was their nature, that was devouring or killing people was their nature, so they did what they had to do. But by doing that particular sacrifice and killing all the demons, he would actually be giving up his potency or his Brahminical power of forgiveness. So he should be rather exercising that power of forgiveness, and sort of he should do what is actually his nature, right? In his Brahminical qualification of forgiveness, he needs to exercise that. So that's why he thought that he shouldn't be withdrawing that, rather he should exercise that, and he should show that he is superior to those demons, right? Otherwise, like even in life, sometimes what happens is that when we are in a situation wherein we are faced with this kind of a um, situation wherein we need to, we just kind of retaliate or we react rather than responding. So that's why we are told that, we should always respond and not react to a situation. And sometimes no retaliation is the best retaliation, sometimes even that is there. So that's why it is at that point of time he took the advice of Vashishta Muni, and he decided that no, he won't have such a, he won't do that sacrifice. And because of that, Pulastya Muni, who was the father of all the demons, he blessed him, and because of that, he gave him the blessings to say that he will be, he will be a great orator of the Bhagavad. He'll speak on the Puranas. So that's why we can understand. So Parashar Muni, so when he spoke the Bhagavatam, he started with the Bhagavad Purana, because it's the foremost of the Puranas. It's the the most supreme one. So here Maitreya Muni also, he also starts with the Bhagavatam, because because Vidura has asked all these questions. Now Maitreya Muni also starts with the Bhagavad Purana, and because Vidura was qualified to hear it, because of his faithfulness, and he was following the instructions received from the superiors, it was a pleasure for Maitreya Muni to also speak the Bhagavatam to him. So here we can understand that this Bhagavatam has been narrated from time immemorial, and it is not that some speculators just say that before all, like all the historical calculations that they do, and the speculative philosophers, they say that it's only a few years old, and the Puranas are not very they are not as long, as not has not been, they have not been created as far as ago as we think they are. But actually in the Bhagavatam it is clearly mentioned that it has been from time immemorial. So that's why we need to understand that it is not some like a book or some knowledge which some sages have just compiled together. It's not that way. It has come down from the Lord himself. All right. So now we can understand that Maitreya Muni goes on to speak, and he says that when he starts speaking on the Bhagavatam, he starts off with a point, because we have to start here. The point is where about Brahma. How does Brahma come? He does. How does he appear? Now, what happens is he says that here the Garbhotakashai Vishnu, he's lying alone. Okay, he's lying alone on the Ananta Shesha, and he's in this transcendental blissful state and in his internal potency, whereas actually the external potency is suspended at that time, because it is a time of dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. So the three worlds, that is upper, the lower, and the middle planetary systems, are basically merged into the water of dissolution, and all the living in three worlds are kind of a state of suspension, like in the sense they're all in their subtle forms, their subtle bodies, by the energy of the Kala Shakti, that's the Lord's Shakti. So they're all in the subtle forms, and their gross forms are they are unmanifest. So this is the kind of partial, not full dissolution, right? So you can understand that the material energy was not completely wound up. It is because during partial dissolution, material energy is not completely wound up. It's just partial dissolution. It's not full dissolution, right? So now what has happened is all these like these living entities, they are in their subtle form there, and the Lord lays down for around 4,000 yuga cycles in his internal potency. And his external energy, he's just, by his external energy we can think that he's just sleeping within the water, and through the internal energy he's in his transcendental bliss, right? And you can imagine for 4,000 cycles, that is yuga cycles, that is yuga is the four yugas, that's Satyuga, Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and the Kali Yuga. So now together one is these four yugas combined together is around 4.3 million years. So if you can think of 4,000 such yugas, so the Lord is just lying down there, and so at that point of time, after that time period, after he lies down for that long, then when those living entities are again coming out for further development of the fruitive activities, because the fruitive activities are just like kind of suspended there, right? So it has to again start off, so they again continue with whatever the further development of their fruitive activities. So again, actually by that energy called the Kala Shakti, it again starts off. So then we can see that in the Vishnu Purana, this Kala Shakti is actually said, it's actually called as avidya. Now, what is this avidya? The symptom of this, the influence of this Kala Shakti is that one works in this material world for fruitive results. That is, we understand that because we all are kind of doing that. Of course, the plus is that we are actually at least we are interested in Krishna conscious activities, and we are giving some part of our day to Krishna conscious activities, which is actually the best part of our life. But most of the people around us are all interested just in activities, and they're very enthusiastic to work for some bit of temporary benefit, and then almost like perpetual bondage. But they think that they're very clever, and throughout their life they are thinking of collecting assets, and they think that okay, they have set everything for their families and for the kids and the grandkids, and everything is done. But they need to understand that actually it is this kind of a false like an illusory symptom that is there. It's because of this Kala Shakti and because of this avidya that is connected to it, right? So now what happens is that this the subtle subject matter of creation on which the Lord's attention was fixed, it gets agitated by the material mode of passion. And then what happens is the subtle form of creation, it pierces through the abdomen of the Lord. Okay, it pierces through the sum total, the form of the fruitive activity of the living entities. It takes the shape of the bud of a lotus flower. And that is what it, and when it comes out through the navel of the Lord, it illuminates everything like the sun and dries up all the vast waters of devastation in which everything was submerged, right? So it dries up that vast waters of devastation, and it just illuminates the whole place. Now what happens is the Lord Vishnu is personally entering as a super soul into that lotus flower, and when it gets impregnated with these modes of material nature, then Brahma, who's a personality of Vedic wisdom, and whom we call self-born, he is generated. So through that lotus flower, which is actually the universal Virat form, the gigantic form of the Lord, and which whom we hear about even in the Bhagavad Gita. So that lotus flower is the Virat form. That is what has been mentioned in the purports here, and that is basically, it is amalgamated the personality of Godhead in his abdomen at the time of dissolution. And when again it becomes manifest at the time of creation. So this lotus flower is basically the Virat form, which is amalgamated, and then it is during the dissolution, it is amalgamated, and again it comes up and it shows up, it becomes manifest at the time of creation. So this is because the Garbhodakashai Vishnu is entering into each of the universes, right? And because of the activity there starts. Right? So here what happens is he enters. in this form, the sum total of all the fruitive activities of those living entities, those conditioned by the material nature, and the first of them is Brahma. So he is generated from this lotus flower. Right now, this firstborn, you can say, is unlike all the others. Like he doesn't have any material father, and thus he's called self-born or Swayambhu. Right now, what we can understand is that. He's born out of the lotus flower, but he actually could not see anything. He could not see the world. And though he was situated in that world, he could not see anything. And that's why he circumambulated all of space. And then while he moving his eyes in all directions, he achieved the four heads that we normally see in the pictures. Right? He achieved those four heads in terms of the directions that he was looking in all directions. So now he could not perfectly understand vision, the lotus, or himself. So at the end of the millennium, what happened is the air of devastation. It started beginning to move the water and the lotus in great circular waves. So he just was like wondering what is happening. He was totally perplexed, and he could not understand this mystery of this creation and the cosmic manifestation. And so he actually at that time, we can understand that we cannot understand all these these theories of like people do come up with different theories of this creation and how this cosmic manifestation came into being. But what Brahma has to say is that one cannot understand that just simply by mental speculation, because he himself has experienced that. He has himself done that. So the thing is that without the help of the Supreme, we cannot understand this mystery, right? And in terms of everything, like the creation, the continuance, and the destruction of this cosmic manifestation, we cannot understand it. So we need to have like the surrender. So what Brahma was actually, first, he too was speculating. So he was thinking, who am I that I'm like, I'm situated on top of this lotus, and from where has it sprouted? And there has to be something downwards. And so, might be it's coming out of this water. So maybe I should, go and check it out. So he still, we can understand this kind of questions, even the mental speculators. Now in this present age, we see so many of them who are speculating about these different theories which people come up with. And then again, Brahma was doing the same. So what he did was he entered the water through the channel of the stem of the lotus, and he went down and he went quite, he went nearer to the navel of the Vishnu, but he traced out the root. So we can understand that here. The Srila Prabhupada also says that once personal endeavor, we might go close, we might go in that direction, but we cannot reach the ultimate point. So such understanding of the Lord is possible only by devotional service, because even in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that in 1855 he says, "Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tatvatah." So one can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. So that surrender, that mood of devotion has to be there. It's very important, right? Now, even like Brahma himself, later on when the Brahma Mohan Leela is there, and after that when he sees that he says that the Lord is, with all the gopas and the way they're treating him. First, he's, in doubt that is really is this the Lord, and that's why he tries to test the Lord. And then finally he understands that, oh my God, what a mistake I've made. But then he realizes that this devotional service, he glorifies devotional service. He of course glorifies the Lord first, and then he glorifies devotional service too. And there's this beautiful shloka wherein he says, Shreya Shrutim Bhakti Mudasyate Klishyanti ye kevala bodhalaptaye Tesham so kleshalayva shishyate Nanyat yathasu latuzavagatinam. So he says that, my dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. If someone gives up that path and engages in the cultivation of speculative knowledge, he will simply undergo a troublesome process and will not achieve his desired result. As a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His only gain is trouble. So we can understand that Brahma, by his own experience, he has come to this conclusion And he says that devotional service is unto you is the best path for self-realization. So we being, the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, we understand that our main guru is, Brahma himself. He is telling that devotional service unto you, unto the Lord, is the best path. So that is itself a clear indication that what we need to do, that our devotion is the most important here. Rather than being like speculating and following the path of speculation. Right. So now what happens is Brahma. He understands that he cannot. He doesn't like he goes down the stem of the lotus flower and he comes quite close to the navel of the Lord, but he does not understand what is happening, why, and come. So he comes back again. He retires from that kind of, all those endeavor of his, and then he comes back, searching back again, back to the top of the lotus, and then he sits and he just concentrates his mind on the Lord. And now he was in this kind of a samadhi, and he's concentrating on the Lord. And after many years, he says, like even Prabhupada says that this concentrating on the Lord, even that is a form of devotional service, because it involves it's a sign of self-surrender, because you are actually ceasing from any personal sense endeavors, and he's concentrating on the supreme cause, and that itself is a sign of self-surrender. So now after 100 years, that is of Brahma's 100 years, so that is as we said that his one day is basically 1,000 cycles of those Chaturyuga, right? So you can imagine that 100 years is so long. So after doing all that, so much time, after spending that much time on meditating on the Lord, he finally develops the required knowledge. And because as a result of that, he actually sees in his head the Supreme Lord within himself. He can see that what he couldn't see before, he starts seeing that. And so the Supreme Lord, he said that it can be experienced only through the process of devotional service and not through one's personal endeavor in mental speculation. So now Brahma's day, as we said, it is 1,000 times like the 4 yugas. So you can imagine that he meditated for such a long time. And after that, he understood that the supreme cause of all causes. And then he wrote Brahma Samhita, in which he clearly glorifies the Lord, and he says that he's he says Govindam Adi Purusham tam aham bhajami. So he recognizes, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has recognized this beautiful Brahma Samhita shlokas, and so that's why we regularly listen to them and we sing them, because we have to understand that one has to wait for the mercy of the Lord before one can either render service unto him or know him as he is. So the Lord's mercy is very important, and that comes through the when we serve the devotees, when we have sadhu sangha, when we follow the regulated principles, when we follow the the instructions of our gurus and acharyas. So now, when Brahma could finally see that he had tried to see from such a long time, finally after so many years, after 100 years of meditating on the Lord, he could actually see that on that water there was this gigantic lotus-like white bedstead, and which was the body of the Sheshanaga, and on which the personality of Godhead was lying alone, and this whole atmosphere was illuminated by the rays of the jewels which were bedecking the hoods of the Sheshanaga. And that illumination itself dissipated all the darkness of those regions, right? So the luster of the transcendental body of the Lord and the yellow dress of the Lord, his golden helmet bedecked with jewels, his gigantic body, his hands, legs decorated with jewels, pearls, tulsi leaves, flower garlands. They were all like there was no comparison between that beauty which he was actually seeing, visualizing, and to anything that he had seen. And it was even in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that one who is attracted by the Supreme is no longer attracted by anything inferior. So that's how Brahma was feeling at that point of time. And he could see that, the Lord actually showed his lotus feet by raising them to Brahma, and which was itself like an source of all the awards achieved by devotional service, right? So that sort of award is basically given to that person who worships him in pure devotion. So this the transcendental rays were coming out from those, even the toenails and the fingernails of the Lord. So now we understand that he fulfills the desire of everyone as per, like we have heard this before too, he fulfills the desires of everyone just as one desires, right? So again, it is again, we understand that when it comes to pure devotees, Lord is the only desire, like of the pure devotees, and devotional service is the only spotless process for achieving this favor, for Krishna's favor. So we understand that because even there was this beautiful shloka that we were studying, even in Nectar of Devotion, and it said that it is like basically bhakti is so beautiful, devotion is so beautiful that it actually is very auspicious. It is very rare. It removes all kinds of difficult, miseries in our life. Even the cause of the miseries it takes out, because we understand that what is, we on a higher platform, we understand what bhakti is or what devotion is. So for us, it becomes irrelevant. All the other miseries in our life become irrelevant, and at the same time, it also is the one that attracts Krishna. That's the only thing that attracts Krishna, and that is bhakti, pure devotion. So that's why we understand that Srila Rupa Goswami, even in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, he says about, when he says about devotion, he says, Jnana Karma Adyanavritam. So it is not covered by, by knowledge or by any kind of speculation or any fruitive activities. So it is just without any tinge of speculative knowledge and fruitive activities. So that kind of devotion is what is that attracts Krishna. So such devotional service is able to award that pure devotee the highest result, that is namely the direct association with the Supreme. So again, he understands that Brahma here is so, like, he's just in awe, with all that vision that he's actually having of the Lord. And Maitreya Muni, again, he says that it's he Lord himself acknowledges the service of the Lord, or service of the devotees basically, and he vanquishes the distress of the devotees by his beautiful smile. So we can understand that what happens is when the devotees are rendering devotional service to the Lord, it's very obliging to the Lord, because he understands that they don't want anything, they don't need anything material from him. So that's why when they are offering this kind of ahetuki, like unmotivated devotional service to him, he is obliged towards them and he's kind of indebted towards them. And so he thinks that, what can I give? I'm sold out to these devotees. I cannot give them anything. So that's why he in return, the only thing that he gives them, he kind of can give them, is his smile. And his enchanting smile, when he smiles in that way to his the devotees, so they are satisfied. They are so satisfied and they're so enlivened that again it is they are more happy and they do more devotional service, and that in turn gets the Lord to be more indebted. And so it is this kind of a continuous transcendental competition that is happening between the Lord and his devotees, and by such reciprocation of service and acknowledgement. So this is a beautiful like relationship that has been mentioned here in the purports of this chapter. So it's really nice, because we understand that we are not I am not at that stage, but just listening to this kind of a relationship that the Lord and the devotees share, it is it makes one enthusiastic, and it encourages us to sort of get better and better at our devotional service. Yeah. So that is that if we can do something which can attract Krishna, who is the Supreme Lord, so that what more can we ask, and that can make him smile? What can we do that can make Krishna smile? So that that itself is I mean, there can be nothing more than that one can achieve in one's lifetime. So here again, like Maitreya Muni is discussing, these the vision that Brahma had, and this beautiful beautiful features of the Lord, and all that illumination, and the jewelry, and the Ananta Shesha with all the jewels bedecked on the hoods. So all this kind of vision that Brahma was actually having within his mind, Maitreya Muni is explaining to Vidura. and he tells him that there's like a lot of description here about how the Lord actually looks. So and again, Brahma is even later on, even in the prayers that is there after the Brahma Vimohan Leela, we have seen that always when these good devotees, whenever they start off speaking to the Lord, or they're speaking about the Lord, they always start with glorifying the Lord first, by speaking about his beauty. So even in the Brahma's prayers in the 10th canto, you see that the very first shloka that Brahma starts out with, is about the beauty of the Lord, about the beauty of the form of the Lord. So it's a very beautiful verse, and I'm sure you might have heard it before. It is Naumidyate Bhravapushe Tadidambaraya Gunjamatam Shaparipichala Sanmukhaya Vanyasraje Kavalavetra Vishana Venu Lakshma Shri Mridupade Pashupangajaya Lakshma Shri Mridupade Pashupangajaya Lakshma Shri Mridupade Pashupangajaya. So here, Lord Brahma, he says that, my dear Lord, you're the only worshipable Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore I offer my humble obeisances and prayers just to please you. O son of the king of the cowherds, your transcendental body is dark blue like a new cloud. Your garment is brilliant like lightning. The beauty of your face is enhanced by your gunja earrings and the peacock feather on your head. Wearing garlands of various forest flowers and leaves, and equipped with a herding stick, a buffalo horn, and a flute, you stand beautifully with a morsel of food in your hand. Okay, so it's like this beautiful description has been mentioned here. So in the same way, Brahma too is like, he's totally enchanted by what he's actually seeing now in his mind. And he's there again in the purports. Srila Prabhupada has actually spoken about these words called Avyakta Moolam. That is, Krishna is self-situated, because Brahma was all the time thinking, okay, I've come out of this, like I'm situated on this lotus flower. So where did I come from? And who's the root of, so who's the source of me? And then if this is the Lord, then, who is the source of this person here? So it's all about this speculation was happening earlier. But now he totally understands that the Lord is Avyakta Moolam. That is, he's self-situated. And it's not, he is the root of himself. There is no other separate cause of his standing, but he himself. Yeah. So again, in the Vedas, it is the Lord has been called as Swashraya, means he is his own support, because we understand that we are always dependent on someone or the other for support. Maybe our family members and friends or our well-wishers, but in the sense that Krishna he is his own support. Therefore, we understand that this Avyakta Moolam is a very important word. So such words and such phrases are always, it's nice to study such verses and such words in the Sanskrit, because Srila Prabhupada has always given us such beautiful word-to-words and translations and purports, and he's always in the purports too, he always discusses such words that are very significant. Again, in the Brahma Samhita, Brahma himself, actually, he says about the Lord that it is Advaitamachyutamanadimanantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayauvanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabhamadurlabhamatma Bhakto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So again, Brahma, he says that I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet he's a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. So here again, there's such beautiful verses that Brahma has himself, in the Brahma Samhita, it could be, or in the Bhagavatam, he has mentioned about Krishna, glorifying the Lord. Because now that he has actually understood the truth and he has seen Krishna within himself, he has understood and visualized the truth. So now he offers beautiful prayers. Right. So now again we understand that, after that vision that he has, and like after those so many years of meditating on the Lord, now that he's having vision of the Lord, he understands that this is Hari, the personality of Godhead, and he sees that, Lord Brahma sees the lake in Lord Vishnu's navel, and the lotus flower, as well as the devastating water, and then the drying air, the sky. So everything becomes clear to him then. So slowly, steadily, Krishna actually gives him that knowledge within himself. He can actually see that, and he visualizes it. And then what happens is he gets surcharged with this mode of passion, because he has to start the creation, so he becomes inclined to create. And after those he because he's in the mood of passion now, and he's all ready to create, because Brahma, as we know, is a secondary creator, and Krishna is of course the primary creator. So Brahma is given this knowledge by Krishna to start the creation. And to start out, he again, of course, in the next chapter, this is chapter 8, but in chapter 9, we actually go on to studying that how he offers this respectful prayers as he's starting out on the path of creative mentality. So we can understand that it is, in this, even if we just summarize this chapter, you can understand that Maitreya Muni here, who's telling how Brahma came into being, and he is explaining to Vidura, first of all, because Vidura is in that submissive mood, so we understand that we need to have the same submissive mood, that faithfulness and the submissiveness is very important. And Bhagavatam, having the association of a Bhagavata and having this opportunity to study Bhagavatam is very important. So as we wrap up this chapter, we should understand that taking the shelter of Srila Prabhupada's books and Srimad Bhagavatam is so important, because even if it is a material world or the spiritual world, it is to create something, either ways, materially or spiritually, we have to take the shelter of the Supreme Lord for that necessary energy, and that is the path of the successful termination of any attempt. So we need to understand that this information that Brahma is passing on to us is that even if it is like he is on the speculative side of things, but eventually he understands that he is the Lord is the supreme, Krishna is the supreme Lord, and that we surrender to him, unmotivated and unconditional surrender to him and service unto him is the best, and that is the way to go. So thank you so much for this opportunity to glorify the Lord and his devotees that I've got today. So thank you so much. We'll continue with the Srimad Bhagavatam, the next class. Gopinath ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.